So, Dave, you said to me really interesting the other day, when you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, it completely affected your attitude towards fear in a kind of a way that took you by surprise. What was that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody expects a diagnosis like that. I certainly hadn't. I'd gone into the neurology department thinking I had a trapped nerve in my shoulder, as
Mm,
you do. So when I was diagnosed, it was a complete shock and a complete surprise to me. And so it took me a while to process it. But I think one of the things I learned is that fear is one of those occasions in your life when you can either let it overwhelm you or you can try and work with it. And we all have that primal reaction through fear. We get the adrenaline,
mm.
we want to run away, we want to hide. But whether it's my character or whether it's just the fact that I've worked in change for a long time, I think I was able to kind of assimilate it into a force to kind of motivate me rather than demotivate me. I
Yeah.
think fear
And
can.
when did you kind of realize that something was different? Was it a kind of instant thing, or did it come over
Well,
a period of time?
no, because Parkinson's is kind of quite slow developing. It took me a while. I went through what I call the bloke medical process, which is you think of something, then you put it off for 2 months, and then something else happens
Mm,
and you put it off for 2 months. So basically, I noticed I was scuffing my foot whilst I was walking around at lunchtime at work. And I just thought perhaps I pulled a muscle. I was a fencing instructor. Maybe I pulled a muscle or something like that. And so I let that slide for about 2 months. And then a colleague said to me, "Did you ever used to be in the Grenadier Guards?" Which, when you're sat together in an office, is kind of a very unusual
mm.
question. But he was an army reservist, and he explained that Grenadier Guards, ex-Grenadier Guards, always walk with a very stiff left arm. And he said, "You always walk
All
with a
right.
stiff
Okay.
left arm." And I thought,
Yeah.
that's a bit weird. So being a bloke, I kind of thought about it for a couple of months, then finally started bumping into things, and being a bloke, thought about it for another couple of months. Finally got an appointment with the doctor. He did a few tests and immediately referred me to neurology. Being a bloke, I didn't ask why. So when I went along,
Mm,
it was very much the end product of me kind of. I think procrastination has got a lot to do with fear. I don't know if you've experienced
mm.
your experience with your diagnosis of your prostate cancer. Did you
Yeah.
procrastinate
I mean,
at
I
the
guess.
time?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that sticks in my mind is it was kind of flagged up at a routine medical
Mm,
through work, and when somebody tells you that, you think, oh, that's a pain in the butt, literally. But I had no symptoms whatsoever, and you kind of think, well, I wanted a clean medical, but there's this thing, and it's inconvenient because I'm so busy at work. I'm going to have to go to the doctors for another test. So I went for another test, and they sent me to the hospital for another test.
mm,
And you kind of think, and even when I came out of the hospital having the second kind of more invasive biopsy, you kind of think, nah, it's kind of not me. Prostate cancer is something that old
mm.
blokes get. It's not. No, I'm too young for that. I was only 52. And it's weird because when I actually got the diagnosis where they were able to tell me with absolute certainty I did have prostate cancer, I was sat in a meeting room in London, and I just stepped out of an all-day conference that I was participating in through work.
Mm.
So I was kind of 200 miles away. I should have been, looking at it. It's so serious. I should have been sat with the consultant in the office, looking him in the eye and saying, "What does this actually mean?" And I
Yeah.
remember he said to me, he said, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. He said, the bad news is we found some cancer cells. The good news is we found them really early and there's lots of treatment options. And I was like,
Mm.
just like, run that good news past me again.
Yeah. Can't
But
quite see that beyond the bad news at the moment, sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So yeah, it is. It's so I guess I wasn't exactly putting it off, but what I was doing up here, I'd convinced myself that I didn't have it.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing about fear, isn't it? It kind of, you kind of get into this denial, or you
Mm,
just won't acknowledge the fact that it's a potential possibility. Because I was on holiday the week before I went to the neurologist for my
yeah.
diagnosis, and I kind of wasn't even thinking about it. And we came back from a holiday, and then that hit me sort of right between the eyes. But you kind of, you kind of blank it out, I think, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you don't accept it can happen to you. And I think, you know, you talk about this in one of your presentations. Life can just go like that, can't it? You know,
Yeah.
it can come out of the crossroads at 60 miles an hour and completely blindside you.
Yeah.
And that's been, I think, one of the other big things I've got out of my experience of diagnosis has been that, you know, you never know how much time you've got to do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, don't put them off, because you just don't know kind of what I mean, at the moment, I don't know what my glide path is with Parkinson's. You know, I'm a bit shaky this afternoon again.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can do stuff, sometimes I can't, and I think it's a lesson in life, and it's a cliche because it's true, but you shouldn't put off what you want to do, because might not ever get a chance to do it.
Yeah. And as you know, for me being a project manager, what crystallized in me after I'd had my treatment was the kind of right to left planning and left to right planning. So, you know, for projects, if somebody comes up to you and says, let me have a look at your left to right plan, you give them a Gantt chart, you tell them what you're going to do this week and next week and the week after, and it all looks nice. When somebody says, I've been caught out so many times when somebody said to me at steering groups, you know, what about the right to left plan? And they give you the end date and you have to work back, and you find that you should have started like 2 weeks before the current date, so you're in trouble. And I thought, well, why don't we do that with our lives? Why don't we, every now and again when we get out our bucket list, why don't we just look at our right to left plan? Because we all assume we're going to live forever.
Yeah.
And nobody's managed it yet, so why would we be the first ones? So you get out your right to left plan and you think, well, okay, so what if we only had a year? What if we only had 5 years? What if we only had 10 years? If, you know, the angel of doom came knocking tomorrow, and kind of the grim reaper with his big cloak on, and you know, you can't negotiate with this guy.
No.
You can't say, oh, hang on a minute, I need another 5 years because of all that stuff on my bucket list. I haven't finished yet. He just says, sorry, mate, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, at that point when your life is up and you're taken away, you know, what will you regret? What will you not have done that you should have done?
Don't die wondering, you know.
Yeah, I think and then you've got plenty of time to do it, you know, get on with it.
And I think you and I were probably both lucky in the sense that we were in jobs and we had careers that allowed us to perhaps understand the experience a bit more. You know, you being a program manager, you're used to working with change, you're used to working with plans and timescales. Me as a business analyst, I'm kind of used to dealing with change, although I wasn't used to dealing with it on such a personal level, it has to be said. But I think we were both in jobs we actually sort of enjoyed as well, which allowed us the chance to kind of figure out what it was about those jobs that we wanted to carry on doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, what that core thing was. And for me, it was just helping people deal with change, you know, helping and coaching and mentoring people, you know, developing people and sharing my experiences. So in a way, I think we've both been kind of blessed in some ways, but at the same time, you know, it's not necessarily the best way to have to learn that lesson, I guess.
Not really, no. It's not what you anticipate doing. But yeah, I'm entirely with that, because, you know, I look back and I think, would I be sat here now being a development coach with my own company if I hadn't had the prostate cancer? Or would I still be doing that left to right plan, which is going into work, going down to London, traveling on trains, just because I'd done it last week and just because I'd done it the week before and just because I was too frightened to actually try anything else?
Yeah.
You know, so people still say to me, well, it's all right for you because you've had cancer, when we talk about fear. And I go, what? What? Have you realized what you've just said? But I think what they mean is they'd love to do that, but they haven't had that shock of a life-changing event. So I said to them, well, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to sit around waiting for that life-changing event to come, whether it comes next week, next year, 10 years, 20 years? Or are you going to say, well, okay, imagine it's happened today. What am I going to do differently? What have I always wanted to do in my life? Well, what's to stop me doing it?
Yeah, I think what you need is support. And I think that's a really important lesson for anyone who's dealing in change of any degree. You know, I've done tons of IT projects where we've come in and said, we're going to change your system. We're going to change the way you do your job. get used to it, but we've never had that conversation about what it really means and how people can react to it. And I think that's a really important lesson that I learned.
Yeah.
Was you have to have that kind of support up front and throughout the experience. You don't necessarily need facts or options. You just need a little bit of time to process it and a little bit of sense of support from people.
Yeah. You've just reminded me, actually, Dave. I think one of the thing we need to talk about next time we get together is that occasion, if you remember it, when we worked together, where I offered you a superb opportunity as lead business analyst on that project. And I was completely taken aback by your completely negative reaction to it. So,
yeah.
so it's been great catching up today, but let's talk about that next time.